Dr. Gilbert Franco is a licensed marriage and family therapist and assistant professor of psychology at Beacon College, America's first accredited baccalaureate institution for students with learning and attention issues. His prior experience includes serving as lead faculty area chair for psychology at the University of Phoenix, San Diego. Dr. Franco also served as clinical director for the McAllister Institute in El Cajon, where he supervised marriage and family therapy and clinical social work interns. His expertise blends academic instruction with practical clinical training and supervision. Dr. Jeffrey Gardere directs clinical training for Touro College's Doctorate of Psychology program and is associate professor at its School of Health Sciences and College of Osteopathic Medicine. A licensed and board-certified clinical psychologist in New York, he practices within integrated community healthcare. Dr. Gardere has authored multiple books, including Practical Parenting with Montel Williams. His first book, Smart Parenting for African Americans, has been praised for its guidance on raising African American children in today's world. Dr. Nahama Sorshur is a leading New York City specialist with 30 years of experience working with patients with neurocognitive challenges as an evaluator and psychodynamic therapist. She holds a PhD in clinical psychology from Adelphi University and a certificate in psychotherapy from New York University. Dr. Sorshur has published extensively on neurocognitive challenges, trauma, and neurodiverse children. Her latest books include Assessment and Intervention with Neurocognitive Challenges and Your Neurodiverse Child, How to Help Kids with Learning, Attention, and Neurocognitive Challenges Thrive, set for release in April 2025. And we're going to begin our conversation today with Dr. Franco. We often hear about the crucial role of mothers. Well, but why is it important to specifically address the father's role in raising a neurodivergent child?
Thank you. That's an excellent question, Daryl. So children, whether they're neurodivergent or not, learn primarily through their parents, through what we call social learning. Now, having the father, included in that gives a child a different perspective to learn from. If you have just one parent or the other, they just get an incomplete picture. But when you have both, you have a more complete picture of, what it's like to be an individual in society, basically.
All right, well, thank you. So, Dr. Gardere, what are some of the unique challenges that fathers of neurodivergent children face that may differ from the challenges their mothers face?
Sure. Well, Daryl, as you referenced earlier, one of the things we know is that much of the early maturation of a child comes from, in fact, the mother. Many of the developmental stages are based on that kind of a relationship. But when dads are introduced into the picture, and that's usually later on, that the baby learns some of the cues from the dad, preferential smiling towards the dad. That usually comes after the preferential smile towards the mom, that we see the father becomes more important in the picture. One of the things that we know about neurodiverse children is that when fathers are involved in that particular scenario, if they're not getting the feedback from their neurodiverse child with regard to the father showing love, showing emotion, touching the child, giving attention, and that neurodiverse child may not be giving that back at that point in their early life, that the father may then begin to mirror that same kind of behavior and begin to pull back. And that's why it's so important that we talk to fathers about that we talk to fathers about their importance in being in the lives of their neurotypical children, but especially in the lives of their neurodevelopmental children, and addressing some of those challenges, but really talking about how they can enhance the relationship within the family with their neurodiverse child.
All right, well, thank you. So, Dr. Sorshur, I'm wondering how societal expectations of masculinity can sometimes hinder fathers from fully engaging in the care and support of their neurodivergent children.
I really like that question. I think it's really great to include fathers into this conversation in the last 20 years, there's been a real difference in how men see themselves and how fathers see themselves, and actually how we see neurodivergence. So we really want to support fathers in parenting their neurodivergent kids. And one thing that we expect as a society is that men are kind of fix-it people. And there's a stereotype that I think is still true where the wife comes home and complains to her husband about the boss, and the husband goes, okay, let's figure out how to fix it. And the wife says, no, I just want to vent. And men are socially expected to fix things. When you have a neurodivergent child, you can't fix it. It isn't something to fix. It is something to help. It is something to celebrate. But you are on a different journey than if your child was neurotypical. So men have to be supported in understanding that and also being able to express the feelings that are associated with that. Because as a society, we don't expect men to express the feelings. We think they need to be stoic. They shouldn't be crybabies. They need to be calm. And having a neurodivergent child, and Dr. Gardier mentioned this, the child doesn't act the way you would expect a child to act, and therefore you're going to have feelings about it. You might feel embarrassed, you might feel anxious about the child's future, you might feel angry, you might get depressed. And with all these feelings, we need to really support fathers in expressing their feelings and being able to then parent their child more comfortably. And finally, fathers are expected to bring home the bacon. They are financial providers. Having a special needs child is very expensive. So it becomes so much more stressful for them. And they also then have less time to spend with their child and less time to understand their child. So we really need to support fathers in being able to spend quality time with their children so they can really understand them and celebrate them and validate them.
Thank you, Dr. Sorcerer. Good advice. So, Dr. Franco, let's get specific here. Can you talk about some of the ways that a father who's involved in the parenting of a neurodivergent child can positively impact their development?
Yeah, really good question, Daryl. So one of the things that a father's presence can positively impact the child is through their sense of self-efficacy. In other words, their belief in their ability to do something. Now, unfortunately, there hasn't been as much research on the father role perspective as there has been the mother role with regards to this. But there has been some recent research that's been picking up steam in that impact of fathers, and the research has shown or has suggested that there is a positive relationship between a father's involvement in a child's life and their sense of self-worth, their sense of their ability to learn, their sense of even their self-esteem in general. Now, specifically, a father can help by being first being present and available for the child. Again, children really yearn for their parents' attention, whether it's their mother's attention, their father's attention, whatever parent is there, they yearn for that attention. So that's that first step, right? Well, the second step is to not just be present, but actually listen to what the child is experiencing. And then third, provide some positive reinforcement, positive feedback towards how the child is communicating, so you can further build that sense of self-worth. Again, a child needs building blocks in order to build their sense of self-worth. You can't build something without anything, right? So by providing that positive feedback, you're giving the child a sense of, okay, I'm doing this right. I want to do more of this, and again, that can help a child through that.
So, Dr. Gardier, are there any misconceptions about how fathers might have difficulty connecting with neurodivergent children, particularly those with communication issues?
Well, as I said earlier, Daryl, I think there are some real issues as far as connecting. And I think Dr. Franco and certainly Dr. Sorcerer hit upon the fact that, dads are out there bringing home the bacon, and they feel that's really what their role is, though we know that mom brings home the bacon and brings home the sausage and the eggs and, has all these different roles. But that is not a misconception that dad may not be in the house so much. We tend to see that even with neurotypical children. But I think what the misconception is that fathers don't eventually warm up to their neurodivergent child, that they remain distant. And from the many families that I've been blessed to work with who have neurodivergent children, that the fathers in their own way are present. As the child begins to get older, as the father begins to acclimate themselves to the reality that they have a special needs child and a child which is an extraordinary child and who needs a different type of attention, I've seen these dads really get into the situation and be there for their children. One of the things that I think I'd like to see them do more is be more physically active with their children. Instead of spending so much time working outside of the house, dedicating, if they can, some more time to their neurodivergent child as far as showing them physical love. And that's something that we don't see enough of and need to see more of. So I would say the major misconception that we really are addressing is that the father is outside of the relationship, is distant from their neurodivergent child. But really, the bottom line is that dads do their thing in their own way, and it's really important that they do stay involved as much as possible and show as much physical as well as emotional love to their children. But this common misconception that they're not involved is really a fallacy. They are very involved.
All right. So, Dr. Sorsher, you were talking earlier about fathers having the role as Mr. Fix-It, and here's one area I think they could possibly apply that. How can fathers be more active as advocates for their neurodivergent children in educational, medical, and social settings?
I'm really glad you asked that question because I spend a lot of my time encouraging parents to advocate for their children. And I think being an advocate for your child in all these settings is one of the most important roles that a parent needs to have. And fathers are uniquely positioned to advocate because they have those skills. They're able to do the research, they're able to network, they're able to connect, and they're able to be forceful. And what I always encourage a father to do in the terms of the school is both to collaborate with the school, be a partner with the school, but don't be afraid to be pushy. Educate yourself on what your child needs and encourage the school to give your child what they need and what they deserve. And to that end, you need to educate yourself about your child's disorder. And when I work with, particularly with fathers, but also with mothers, I always explain to them that knowledge is power and that you need to educate yourself on your child's specific disorder. So read about your child's disorder, go to support groups, talk with the people in your community, get information that's going to help you and your child, and then you'll be able to be a successful advocate. The other piece is to really assemble a good team. Get yourself a good neuropsychologist, get yourself a good lawyer, get yourself a good parent advocate, get yourself a good learning specialist. Get people on your team who are going to be able to help you. In terms of being social, and Dr. Gardier mentioned this in terms of encouraging fathers to be physically active, I think fathers, again, are very uniquely positioned to help their kids socially by modeling. Kids really learn from what we do. They don't care about what we say, that's blah, blah, blah. They look at what we do. So if a father, for example, is coaching the baseball team and he explains to his kid, oh, you see, I asked his father about his interests. Kids pick that up immediately. So fathers can model good social behavior by being involved with their child, taking their child to the group activity and participating in the group activity. And they can't do it during the week, they can do it on the weekend. And in terms of medical attention, the most important thing is to make sure that your doctor understands your child and your child's issues. And so you have to do your due diligence, you have to do your research and make sure that this doctor really gets what's going on with your child. And I think fathers can use all their skills, their networking, their communication, their research skills to become excellent advocates for their kids.
All right. So, Dr. Franco, let's say that you're rearing a neurodivergent child who is autistic. Are there any specific strategies or approaches that you as a father can use to better connect with this child?
Mm-hmm. Excellent question, Daryl. And you know what? One simple strategy is to create memories. And speaking not just as a professional, but also as a father of a neurodivergent child with this, it's really important to be there, be present for your daughter, for your son, for your child. And Dr. Gardier says something super important, and that is that it's important for fathers to show affection to a child, be there with a child, and to not be Mr. Fix-It. Although those skills are important, for other avenues like talking to schools. And I've talked to schools many times about different kinds of things like IEPs and stuff like that. But when it comes to actually relating to your child, being there, being an active listener, in other words, sitting there and listening to a child, being there and hugging your child, being there and seeing, what your child needs emotionally. For example, a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, actually, my family celebrates Three Kings Day, and the other was Tres Reyes Magos. And for Three Kings Day, each child gets a present under a tree that they put their shoes under the tree, and we have like a palm tree with lights. And then they put their shoes, and then the three kings are supposed to visit at night and then put a present under the shoe. So I gave my child a Lego set, right? A car Lego set. And then later that day, he was putting it together, and he wanted me to be there to put it together to him. But not to help him actually do the Lego set. He just wanted me to be there present to watch him put the Lego set together. And then there was an issue that he had putting the Legos together. And I asked him, hey, do you want me to help you with that? No, I just want you to be here. And that's all they want. They want that, that warmth, that presence that a father can bring, a mother can bring, any parent can bring. So fathers out there, it's important for you to be there for your child, be present for your child, not to always try to fix things, although that's important as well, but to, be there present and give them that warmth that they crave. Whether they're neurodivergent or not, every child craves that sense of well-being, that sense of warmth, and the ability to express emotion and experience emotion. So thank you. Great question.
All right, thank you. So, Dr. Gardier, if you're a father rearing a child with ADHD, how can you help that child manage better his impulsivity and attention issues?
Sure. Before I answer that question, I really want to thank Dr. Franco for sharing that personal story because my experience has been with neurodivergent children. They want you to see what they see because they see it in a very different way. They don't want your help. They want you to see what they see. So please, everyone, remember that. And Dr. Sorsher, I'm sure that you agree with that too. But what can a father do to work with a child with ADHD, a neurodiverse child? I think, first of all, fathers are known for discipline, right? Whether it's a stereotype or not, wait till your father gets home, right? And there is some truth to that. But that being said, I think a father can use soft discipline to reduce certain behaviors with timeouts. Modeling, Dr. Sorsher talked about that. In this case, modeling self-regulation, being able to say to your child, I feel frustrated. I take a deep breath and I calm down. Would you like to try that too? Role playing certain scenarios in how they can pause before acting out. And I think those three suggestions by themselves can help dads in going a long way in helping their children with ADHD to be able to focus and to have more impulse control.
All right, thank you. So, Dr. Sorsher, are there some ways that fathers of neurodivergent children can help them develop coping mechanisms and build self-esteem?
Yes. One thing that I think is important to remember about kids with learning difficulties is that they go to school and they're asked to do things that are very hard for them and very frustrating and very stressful. So when they come home, they're fried. And the first thing a father can do is just say, hey, buddy, I know reading is hard. Let's say if the kid has dyslexia. How'd it go today? What happened? And I do think one of father's superpowers, and Dr. Franco and Dr. Gardier also mentioned this, is that they really want their kids to be independent and they want their kids to learn new skills. And they are their kids' big support system and coach. And that gives a kid a lot of confidence. If my father thinks that I can do this, then I can do this. And part of how you encourage the child to do it is you set the bar, you give them a Lego set, and then you sit with them and you watch them do it. And you don't right away run in and help them the way a mom might. You know, you sit back. You say, beautiful story, Dr. Franco. You say, do you want help? And the kid can say, no, I want to do it by myself. And the father is very enthusiastic about that. So when your kid comes home and has whatever story they have about school, the first thing you can do is support them. And then you can come up with a strategy. Then you can say, hey, you know it's hard to figure out B and D. Let's try to figure out what some of the differences. Let's do that together. And just giving that child the attention, but then also the strategy is very important. Now, very often fathers have the same learning and attention issues that their kids have. So many times when I test kids, the father says to me, hey, you know what? I was exactly like that in school. Just nobody diagnosed it. I always encourage them to share that with the kid. Your child worships you. Your child thinks that you're the greatest thing in the world. So if you say to them, listen, buddy, I also had some trouble figuring out B and D, that makes a world of difference to them. Then they have that strength and that hope, and that really improves their confidence and their self-esteem. And if you didn't have that type of learning issue, share a different story or just make it up. Say an uncle had it. But let your child know that they're not alone, that you are there to help them out, and you're also there cheerleading them on as they learn new skills and develop confidence in themselves.
So, Dr. Franco, we know that once a child gets his high school diploma, being a dad doesn't end right there, that they continue to be a father into young adulthood and beyond. Can you talk about how you transition as a father into a new role once the kid is entering young adulthood?
Excellent question, Daryl. Oh, very, very good question. So, as your child grows, as they become adults, your child may be in that position where they want to be, independent, or where they can be independent, right? So for those, children that are able to be independent, that don't need, special care after they become adults, it can be difficult to, not be as involved as you used to be, with schools, with their work and stuff like that. For example, let's say your child goes into college, right? And let's say you as a parent want to, be there at the college and talk to the professors as well. So sometimes it's really difficult for the parents to, go into a different role, more of like, okay, stay back kind of role, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, to be that emotional support. Well, that continues, but that whole fix it thing, that should be eased off a bit, and it's important for you to help your child, do some things on their own. And it takes a change in mindset that can be very difficult because, as your child grows and leaves that nest and you have that empty nestness, you may lose that sense of purpose that you used to have. So as a father, it's always important to, reframe, rethink what that, what your new sense of purpose will be for your child. So that's that first step, is rethink, reframe your role as a father with now an adult child.
So, Dr. Gardier, we've been talking about communication a lot in our dialogue, and I want to get down to brass tacks here. Let's give fathers a blueprint. How can they better communicate with their neurodivergent children? Give me some strategies here for making sure that their child is being seen and heard.
Well, I think we talked about this earlier. I think it's important for fathers to be present, to be there. We talked a little bit about that physical love, but something that's also important too, which is to use our powers of observation, being present in the room with the child as much as possible to learn about them. All of our neurodivergent children, as our experts will attest to, have a secret life. And quite often we don't know what's going on in some aspects of their lives, in that they may, put themselves in seclusion. The children do spend more time in their room. We may not know as much as we should know as to what's going on in school. So I think it's very important for fathers to be present, to be able to observe, to be able to listen, but more than anything else, to be able to show their children that they are a steady presence, that they are a rock, they are someone that their child can depend on. And I think in many ways, that quiet sort of communication can really help our children to understand that they are not alone in whatever their struggles may be, but certainly what their triumphs will be as they move on into the future.
All right. So, Dr. Sorsher, here's a question for you. How can fathers of neurodivergent children help to establish a supportive and inclusive home environment that celebrates their differences and also celebrates their strengths?
I really like that you mentioned celebrating their strengths, because one of my passions is to really encourage people to understand that each child has a superpower. And then actually they do have a disorder, but actually they also have a superpower that comes along with their disorder. So for example, children with autism have a superpower in terms of their ability to figure out puzzles, to do more boring rote tasks, to have incredible memory skills. One of my friends just told me that the Rubik's champion of the world is a person with autism, and that does not surprise me. So when you are a father of a child who has neurocognitive challenges, also understand that that comes with superpowers. And recognize those superpowers, celebrate those superpowers, and make it available for your child at home, because you have the luxury at home. You can tweak your home environment. You have that luxury to really individualize what your child is exposed to at home. And very importantly, understand, let's say, your child's stimulus threshold. Consult with an expert and say, hey, does my child need a weighted blanket? Does my child need a visually stimulating room? Or does my child need a room where it's kind of dark and the furniture is minimal, and that's how they're most comfortable? Each neurocognitive challenge has their own pattern, and psychologists and occupational therapists can help you set up the home environment so your child is the most comfortable. The other piece that's very important is to set your child up for success. So if your child, let's say, is having trouble leaving the house, and a lot of ADD kids do, right? They forget their backpack and they forget their homework and they don't know how to put on their socks. Set the child up for success. Put the clothes out before. Pack up the backpack. Go over the routine with your child so that you are anticipating what some of the difficulties are, and then you're able to have a great morning and then give your child positive feedback about that. You see how well that went? Because we were able to prepare. And the other piece of that is you're teaching them skills. You're teaching them that preparing and planning ahead is super important, particularly when you have ADD. So really understanding what's going on with your kid, both their strengths and their challenges, is going to help you individualize your home environment and how you act with the child, and that will lead to a much happier child and a much more confident child.
All right, well, that's going to be our final word. Dr. Gilbert Franco, Dr. Jeffrey Gardere, and Dr. Nahama Sorsher. Thank you for the knowledge.